Well, we have to remember that at some point it was the third largest party in the Greek parliament. It got about 500,000 votes in a population of 10 million. So their influence and the way that both the media and the rest of the political body treated them had a lot of alarming signs in them. There was much complacency. And it seemed for some time that they were really all-powerful and unstoppable in certain quarters, although never to the point where they could become, the biggest party in Greece, but still extremely dangerous.
How did their criminal activity come to light, and how pervasive was it?
It was essentially baked in from the beginning. The Golden Dawn, to those of us who have been following the party for years, has always been known as having one foot in every world. They were always a political party and a political movement, but heavily involved in the criminal underworld. Some of them always suggested that that was because they needed to fund their political activities and they would use any means necessary. But it seemed at times almost like they were using the political side of what they were doing to cover for their criminal activities, which in fact brought in quite a lot of money and made a lot of them wealthy men.
They were accused of murders and all sorts of conspiracies. Do you anti-racism activists now say, well, Golden Dawn is over, but is it in reality a party that has now been dismantled because of these convictions?
Yes, thankfully, this is what is happening. It doesn't mean that the far right in Greece will disappear, but there is no other formation in Greece that has the level of support, both in the police, the army, and the connections in what we call in Greece the deep state, which is what essentially allowed them to operate with such impunity for so long. In order for them to get to the point where they murdered a man, Pavlos Fissas, in broad daylight almost, if you saw the spot where the murder took place, it's one of the most central streets in that area. It's full of cafes, restaurants, people were out, and yet they felt they could do that. That's the level of impunity they thought they enjoyed. And for some time they did. But there's no other formation that has that much power and that much hold in Greece. So whatever we're going to see now, and of course, because the refugee crisis is still ongoing, the economy is suffering, we're still going to see the far right having some presence in Greece.
Yeah.
But this was a great victory against them.
Tell us what, having studied this for so long and followed these sorts of activities and groups, what do you think the learning from this case and this particular party can be for other countries in Europe and even in Australia, where we, also have, we know, ASIO taken up with a lot of their time looking at far-right extremists?
Well, I think it's very important for people to see how long it took Greeks to take down this particular party. It took more than 8 years. And to remember that this is a marathon, not a sprint, but also to remember not to excuse criminal activity and violence as another way to conduct politics, because this is a mistake that that Greece made early on, to suggest that, like, oh, it's just authentic, they're just a bit more, open about the means that they achieve their political goals. But this should never be allowed to take hold anywhere, and we must use legal means. We must use the courts. We must fight them as journalists, as politicians, as activists.
And Yiannis, what about re-education, just to jump in there? What about re-education and trying to sort of assist in terms of de-radicalisation?
In many ways, I think that comes later. I think it's very important to remove the political superstructure that allows for these people to be radicalized in the first place. And then we can deal with the individuals that may have been drawn in very young. There's very young people were involved in the Golden Dawn, especially in the activist part. But first we have to remove the political side of this, which is, the lie, the narrative, and then we can start like de-radical. I believe that it can be achieved.
Really interesting to get your perspective on us after looking at it for so long. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.